Another week, another episode of Kenobi, and with me to do that is Roy. Roy, welcome.
Happy to be here, Mel.
Oh man, so 3 weeks in,
2 weeks in, 3 weeks in, 3 weeks.
Yeah, 3 weeks because the first
episodes.
it was 2, and yeah, so 4 episodes in. I just say it that way. 4 episodes in.
It's a show I watched.
I forgot the question, but no. How do you feel about Kenobi?
What I said, it's a show I watched. I think this episode was better than the previous 3. But I did. It's just hard. It's hard to have complex feelings about Kenobi. It just feels so firmly mid, to quote the children.
Did your kids really say that, or you're just quoting them?
I'm just quoting them in general. They haven't really talked about Kenobi. Actually, only the old people at work have talked about Kenobi.
What's the sentiment at work for Kenobi?
Oh, fine. That's most people's impression. Like talking to other teachers who watch this, that's just fine. A lot of people just it's fine.
So I have a suspicious feel or sneaky feeling that Kenobi is the show that's supposed to help reset the Force, or the Force, in the minds of the Star Wars viewers, because our experience or last experiences of the Force was Rise of Skywalker, and it kind of leaves you with a bad taste in your mouth. And Kenobi is like, hey, check it out, and because we haven't had any Force, we have. I really don't count Grogu, baby, but Ahsoka in that one episode. Did she use the Force a lot?
Yeah, she had the whole fight with the man with the
spear. Yeah.
And then the Mandalorian was fighting him too, right? It's been a while since I've watched that's a thing, right?
Or did the Mandalorian fight him and she was dealing with everything else outside? Yeah. So it was one something like that. But yeah. So I think this is the first time we're gonna see a whole show or something just run, specifically with the sabers and the Force and all of that stuff, and bringing back Vader and Kenobi is a way to help you kind of wipe the Rise of Skywalker out your mouth. It's like a little palate cleanser. But I think that's what it was supposed to do, or it could have just been something they promised and were like, what, we promised, we're just gonna do it. I don't understand. I don't know the purpose of the show, and I don't know what's going on the show.
I have to agree with you, Mo. I think again, I want to say, I guess, a couple of nice things about this episode before we get into
let's talk about the episode.
So I thought that 2/3 of the episode were pretty good. I mean, in many ways, this kind of just felt like a Mandalorian episode, but instead of the Mandalorian, it's Obi-Wan Kenobi, right? It had the same kind of pacing of there's kind of a cool Star Wars set piece, that there's this kind of interesting but kind of low budget, low stakes mini adventure, right? That goes on, which is kind of what Mandalorian episodes are. But it's Obi-Wan Kenobi, the Mandalorian style adventures don't really fit the character, but I felt like, because it was kind of following this template that Filoni and Favreau had sort of followed for 2 seasons of Mandalorian, that it kind of worked. Once they got going to the sneaking in, stealing the plot of the video game, and sneaking into the Inquisitor's headquarters. They literally do this in the video game. Okay, yes, I just want to. Yes. That's another.
100%.
Yeah. And so, and I like. She's the woman who played one of the Sans, the head Sans.
Yeah, the head Sand. Yeah.
Yeah. She's good. She has pretty good chemistry with Ewan McGregor. The actress who plays Leia was really good in this episode.
Yes.
And so was Moses, playing third sister. I think this was her strongest episode.
Still
so
don't
far.
know the purpose of the fourth, fifth brother. Like
To just be a dick.
No,
Like that's
seriously, like what is he there for? Because
well, the even more useful one is the other female,
yeah,
the like Inquisitor. It's
don't know
like
her number, but
yeah, but what she is.
she's what like he's just there to deliver like the cheesy lines, in my opinion. Like his dialogue is so cringe. But Star Wars, you can't really.
Yeah, I mean, again, if you think too hard about it,
Right.
you wonder why you're watching Star Wars. Which, again, this episode definitely had so many moments of that. It remained oddly brutal, which the previous episode also was. Like when Obi-Wan Kenobi like drowns those stormtroopers, and then the shot shows them like the bodies floating. I was like, that's pretty dark.
You
and
would
of
think
course
would cut it.
Yeah, and the biggest thing, of course, is all those Jedi being frozen in amber or whatever the hell that was. That was brutal too.
That was sick. And then the kid, I think that's the one that had me. I was like, oh no, kill everybody. But yeah, there are nice things about the episode. I thought the opening was fine. The him in the chamber. I thought that was fine. I thought again, I like kind of seeing Obi-Wan struggle with the Force. Again, it's been 10 years. So that scene where he's like, "You guys should go. I got this," and he's holding on. I thought that was pretty cool. Even though I was like, "Oh, he's definitely going to release it by the time they break through." So,
right, of course,
the stakes. The scene was cool, but I was like, "Oh, yeah, I know what's going to happen here," and that kind of kills. It takes away from But I thought it was pretty interesting. Seeing I'm gonna say this, and I'm probably gonna be in the minority, but seeing Vader, anytime I see him, I would rather he doesn't speak, but just seeing him walk into a scene, any scene, just seems pretty cool. He's my third favorite Star Wars character, but even though
who are your first two?
Anakin is my first one.
Okay, Anakin, right? That's why you both don't like sand. We talked about this last time. That's
yes,
right.
we did.
Yeah.
Anakin is my first one. And Ezra Bridger is my second favorite Star Wars character.
Okay.
Yeah. Okay. And I don't care for outside of Anakin and Vader. I don't care about the other legacy characters. I really don't. I think Han Solo is cool, but I just think that's it. Like he's just cool. It's like the cool.
I mean, that's kind of a Han thing.
That's it.
And being a bad dad. That is definitely one of the things the sequels does a really good job with.
I think it's a Star Wars trope at this point. Being a bad dad.
All dads are bad.
Yes.
Except for Qui-Gon, but he died. So
yes, that's not his fault.
Well, I mean, kind of was, but
but I think acknowledging the good in this episode, I feel like there was so much potential. I mean, the questioning scene or the interrogation scene. Anytime they cut back to I'm like, just go back to the Inquisitor plan. Let's just deal with let this whole episode be just Leia and Moses and third sister going at it, because I honestly didn't care about the other side of it, and I don't think I think they wanted you to care, especially with O'Shea Jackson and I think I don't know what the Empire does. They killed my wife. Of course I know what the Empire does. Again, we're not supposed to really think, but okay, I don't care. But let's go back to the kid.
Well, what's so weird about that? I want to say one more thing though. The sequence where Obi-Wan rescues Leia, I thought was a cool, low budget Jedi kind of thing.
Yeah.
Where he kills the two stormtroopers.
With the lights,
I thought that was cool. And I also I was hit by when the speeders come to rescue them, the speeders from Empire Strikes Back. Right. I got nostalgia. I was like, oh, there's this old thing from my favorite Star Wars movie saving them. It's like, oh, you got me. You damn it, Lucas.
That was it.
Again. But yeah, you're 100. I thought that there was 20 minutes cut out of this episode.
Yes.
It's he's in the back of the tank. Then we're just introduced to all these rebels, and we're supposed to care about them.
Exactly.
That dude and his wife, right? The guy who gets blown up at the end, and then
it was him. It was the same dude.
No, it was a different dude. No. It was a different dude, right? Because it was a white guy. So the head guy was black, and he was the one who told the story about his Jedi wife. Then he had the guy Will, who he was and then there was the lady. Yeah, I think it was 3 people.
Yeah,
And the black,
in the scene it was 3 people.
and there was the black guy was like
I
the
thought it was the
boss.
black guy that got blown up, but
No, I thought it was the younger guy, Will or whatever, right? I think I
we'll
could be
find
wrong.
out next week.
We will find out next week because I
We'll
guess
find out
apparently
next week.
Vader's gonna go ape shit on them or whatever next.
Right.
So, also the voice technology they use when James Earl Jones yells, he sounds a lot like Vader.
Yes,
but when he gives serious dialogue, you're like, wait,
that was perfect. Yeah, I think listen, I'm pretty sure the show is expensive, and I think they probably found their footing as the episode goes. I do have a problem though with coming from episode 3 to this one. So like he let Obi-Wan go right in episode 3, but then he goes to Third Sisters like you failed me, and I'm like, hold on, I get it. It's just that's a nitpick, but come on.
Oh, it's not a nitpick because I think actually that's something just talking with both like casual Star Wars fans at work again. Like that end of the 3rd episode, I don't think anyone was satisfied by that.
It didn't make any sense.
It didn't make any sense. And I think this episode does pay the price for that. Some, right? Like how they also escaped didn't 100% make sense.
You mean this episode?
This episode, like it was better.
No, it didn't make any sense because I'm sorry, you run out and you see all those weapons. In my head, I'm like, these are gonna be force thrown at a point. You wait to the very end.
Well,
and she didn't make sense of why she didn't
do it, right? Like that once they kind of retconned that, I was like, oh, okay with that. But like
that was satisfying.
No TIE fighters chasing them, like
nothing.
And I get like the thing that I constantly watching Obi-Wan Kenobi, and you said earlier, this show's expensive. And then all the stuff you also want from big, as soon as you involve the Jedi, there's things you want, right? You want a cool lightsaber fight.
One.
And that's just like, that's expensive. Like, and like one of the reasons why the lightsaber fights, except for the one in Attack of the Clones, because what's his face is just so old at that point that it's like a 2000s version of Alec Guinness fighting Darth Vader in A New Hope. Right, but like the lightsaber fights in 1 and the lightsaber fights in 3 are all excellent, right?
Yes,
they're some of the best Star Wars moments, right? And the lightsaber fights in like the sequels are not very good, except for the one on Last Jedi. The last one on Last Jedi is pretty good.
What part?
Where she and Kylo fight the troopers, and then they pull that's like
super cool.
That was super cool. The ones in Rise of Skywalker, not good. The one in I don't mind the one in Force Awakens. It's okay, but like it's not great, right? But George Lucas spent so much time and money on the lightsaber fighting in the prequels. Like so much time and money. And they haven't since then. Like, I don't know why the decision is. And so people who are expecting like a super cool fight between Vader and Obi-Wan at some point, maybe next episode, maybe the 5th. Well, no, that is the 5th episode. So the season's almost over. So like could be the next episode, could be episode 6. It's not gonna happen, folks.
I think it's if it does happen, it's episode 6. I think the next episode this might be the drawback or the downfall of the Disney shows, right? The 5th episode is always that episode that they do very little in, right? Because they're gonna save everything for the 6th episode. I think Moon Knight suffered that.
Really?
In recent memories. Because Moon Knight had like what? No, Moon Knight had the
oh my god, the escape room, not escape room. Oh my god, Rogers. So I went to graduation. I'm very tired.
The asylum.
That was the 5th episode. The end of the 5th episode.
Yeah,
but actually, I think they've had the opposite problem. Like a lot of these shows set up, like the 5th episode is like the best episode.
Yeah. That's right. It sets up so much, and then the finale just falls in its face.
Yeah, Moon Knight had this problem, but Moon Knight was a bit more successful, I think, than like Winter Soldier. I know a lot of
you gave us the everything else setting up like the 2nd season. So I ask you this now: do you think? No, Mandalorian didn't. I don't know if Mandalorian suffered that.
But Mandalorian like had the thing that screwed all subsequent Marvel and Disney shows, which is the Luke thing, right?
Yeah.
And then like that's just like they've been chasing that and they haven't succeeded mostly.
So I'll ask you this, right? We're getting the 5th episode next week. What do you think? Like, you've sat through 4 episodes. Like, have you been able to map anything out? Because I can't. So I'm just gonna ask you if you can.
So one would expect that there's going to be a confrontation between Vader and there's going to be and Obi-Wan again, right?
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
There also has to be a confrontation between Obi-Wan and the third sister. So the question is, does that happen? And it seems like they're setting up, right, that the Rebel base is going to get attacked by Vader and the Inquisitors, right? That seems to be what they're setting up. So the question is, like, what confrontation happens in this next episode? And Obi-Wan Kenobi is getting more confident. He's more Obi-Wan like, prequel Obi-Wan like in this episode. So the question is, like, is he capable of dueling the third sister or Vader in this episode? In these episodes,
I actually think he's going to talk. You know what? I'm not thinking about it. You mentioned something last week when we did this, right? You said he's going to, like, there's no way we don't get Qui-Gon in any of these episodes. I think that's what happens in episode 5. I think Qui-Gon helps him build a little bit more of that confidence.
Mm-hmm.
And I think that's what happens in episode 5, which probably will get to the end and set up the fight between him and third sister for the beginning of episode 6. Now I'm just like, it's not going to happen this way because you're not going to get 2 lightsaber duels.
I mean, if we did, I would be very happy, unless they're like low budget. Like, I mean, one of the problems that this show suffers from, and Mandalorian suffers from this a little bit too. I don't think anyone has ever. I mean, yeah, none of the Mandalorian fights are all that great.
No,
right? Like,
but you see, the Mandalorian. I think the Mandalorian benefits from the fact that it's not super force sensitive.
Mm-hmm.
It's not force forward, right? So a lot of fights will be more practical, like a little hand to hand, or just being tossed around by someone bigger or a bigger monster or something, right? And I think when he gets to, again, I haven't seen the Mandalorian episodes of Boba Fett, so I think
there's no spoilers. It's not that like a huge Mandalorian like fight scenes in that. There's one cool one, but it's very classic Mandalorian, which is very Batman-y, that's like he actually in many ways has like a Robert Pattinson in the Batman approach. There's like the Mandalorian, which is like he's just force of nature, the Mandalorian, and like people attack him and punch him, and he gets like knocked down sometimes, but eventually he's gonna like beat everyone. Like that's kind of all Mandalorian fight scenes, and I actually like that. But none of them are like stunt spectaculars, like the ways in which like Star Wars, like really good Star Wars action sequences, in my opinion, are, right? Like, and that's one of the biggest legacies of prequels to me is like you got to give me some good stuff, particularly if I'm gonna put up with the bullshit that Star Wars spews. Give me like, I mean, that's the thing about Revenge of the Sith, right? Revenge of the Sith has a lot of just insane things in it, like insane things. Like Padme dies of a broken heart. Like what? Like, what is that? Like, but that fight between him and Anakin is so cool. Even epic. With him screaming about the high ground. Like, like that's still cool. Like, you watch that, you're like, that's really awesome, right? And
yeah, that fight was gold. The fight was gold.
And no Star Wars show has like lived up to that because those fights are expensive. And so the question is like, is Disney willing to spend the money?
Now, knowing what we know, do you think they should have done it as a bring back Ewan McGregor and have him do the voice and have them play voice actors? And you could have just done it the stylings of, because I'm not sure if this was probably put on the table for them, or they just said, no, we need you. He needs to save the Star Wars universe for us, right? Because I don't think they need to save the Star Wars universe because like the not 4 shows are doing well. I stopped watching Boba Fett for a little bit, but
you'll go watch Mandalorian season 3, right? Like,
yeah, of course. Like, and probably watch Ahsoka. Oh, I'll definitely watch Ahsoka. I'm definitely gonna watch Andor. So I don't think they needed saving for the universe. So that's why I said, is Kenobi something they just said, oh, we promised you, and so we just have to deliver. And now we've done it. We can move on to like everything else. Because that's the feeling I get watching this show. It's like, oh, idea. Are you happy now? Next episode. It seems like a bunch of ideas, right?
That don't cohere. Right?
No, yeah.
And
so many cool things happen though.
They do. But I think the seams are really showing. right? And I think we talked about this in the last one. Like
Mm-hmm.
the limits of whatever they call that room technology that they do 90% of the shoots in is like really being shown. Like it was being shown in Boba Fett. It was being shown in some parts of the second season of Mandalorian. But this in particular, like the fact that it's literally a room that they do all of this in, like is just really like showing the limits. It was also obvious a few times in Doctor Strange, because Doctor Strange used this technology too in Multiverse of Madness, right? And I know they're scaling out. Apparently, Marvel, like the Captain Marvel movie, is gonna be the first one with the bigger one they built.
Yeah.
So we'll see. Like we'll see what like the Marvels is like, right? With this stuff, but I think Guardians use some of it too. So I think that's a problem. I think that they aren't spending the money on the action sequences. I think that, as you've said, Mo, they don't have as much to say about Kenobi. Like it feels like this should be a tribute to the prequels.
Right. That was the next thing. That was my thought, really, because this should have stuck more to the prequels, like, or just. I think in trying to build out the universe, like post prequel, just don't just stick there, like get closer to there, like maybe not 10 years ahead. I don't know. I don't think I will watch Ewan McGregor be a chicken farmer for like 6 episodes, but something like I'm very confused, and this is where I think I'm going to say this right. I'm scared because I don't think the show's going to land. Whatever it's building, I don't think it's going to land, and I think it's going to do more damage to future Force Star Wars projects.
I mean, I don't think you're wrong. I mean, the question is, I think for most people, besides the racists, they're lost. Right. I don't think most people hate this show.
No.
Right? Like, I think it's not like The Last Jedi or like Rise of Skywalker, right? Where like, people legitimately, Case of the Last Jedi, in my opinion, a lot of people legitimately, but there were some big problems with that movie. And The Rise of Skywalker is pretty much universally panned, right? I think it's probably the most disliked Star Wars movie besides maybe Attack of the Clones or Phantom Menace.
Weird, but okay. Right, because they're like, as you said, Phantom Menace is the thing. Like, this is super weird. Like,
it's super weird. And I mean, like this, and I thought in the first episode that the prequels would be more in conversation. But as the second episode unfurled and they imported all this stuff from Rebels and from the video games, right, with the Inquisitors, right, which they do assume a little bit of knowledge. Like they don't really like set up very well who the Inquisitors are. Right. They assume prior knowledge, to use a teacher term. And it is not well established. That I was like, oh, this is actually way more in conversation with kind of like Rebels than it is with like milking prequel nostalgia. And one of the few times they do that is in one of the stronger sequences in the previous episode, which is when Obi-Wan and Leia are kind of like trying to escape the mining planet, right? Where they get in the Great Make America Great Again truck and he sees Anakin, right? And like, I think that's actually been like maybe the strongest single sequence of the entire show was sort of like them landing on the planet to about when Vader starts to show up, right? Or when the fight starts, right? Like, I think that's the strongest that the show has really like been. It gets overshadowed by the terrible ending of that episode. But I think that that's a really good sequence. And it is in many ways channeling the prequels. And we're at the 20th anniversary of Attack of the Clones, right, this year. Right. And the generation of people who grew up with the prequels are at their peak purchasing power and like control of the fandom, right? The real prequel here haters are either dead or out of the fandom or are a huge minority, right? Like
at this point, yes.
Yeah, the younger millennials and the Zoomers are a overwhelming majority of the fandom, right? And which is why you see the success of Rebels, right? And all of the sort of Rebels adjacent stuff, Clone Wars adjacent stuff, and the sort of rehabilitation of the prequels in the last like 5 years. And they haven't really tapping into that nostalgia in a way that kind of feels weird, even though you have freaking McGregor, like doing his best again. Just like Ewan McGregor in Star Wars, doing my best, folks.
Yeah, that's really it. And I feel, most of all, I feel bad for Hayden Christensen again, because now again he comes back into this franchise, which was not great to him. And well, but you know what? You don't get to see his face, so that's cool. I mean, you saw his face in one scene, which is the scene where with the
Vision.
Make the Empire Great Again a truck. Some scary shit. No,
it's so on point. Like
it was so great. I think that was the best part of that episode to me. Again, I've liked things on each episode. I've liked things in this episode. I just feel like I'm not understanding what they're trying to do, and that upsets me a lot because I wanted to be 100% all in on the show. Like I wanted to love it. It's Obi-Wan again. I am a prequel defender to a point.
Yeah.
I like I love the saber fights in the prequels, and I think it educates. Is that the word I'm looking for? It informs the saber fights in Clone Wars and Force and all of that, because I think without the pre, right, if we're gonna get the Clone Wars saga and all that, right, I don't think the saber fights in that show or the way the Force is being used on that show will be as great. I think the prequels help inform that, and then moving forward as well. Also, prequels help inform that the clones can't shoot for shit. It shows us why.
Well, they are genetically engineered, right?
Right. You get to see now why they can't shoot for shit. Yeah. But yeah, no, it's. I just think there's so much potential on the show. Again, with Ewan McGregor, with Hayden Christensen, Vader, and Kenobi, and look, man, I would have spent the money. I'm sorry, I would have spent the money. You would see a saber fight every episode.
I mean, even if it doesn't need to be every episode. I mean, maybe we're gonna eat our crow. Like we're gonna sit here
next
Friday.
I want to.
And there's gonna be a cool fight between Obi-Wan and Third Sister.
And right? I will come on the show and I'll be like, you know what? I was wrong. I was impressed, but I like the idea I gave you. I think that would be the best idea. Set it up for the first half of episode 6 to have that fake fight between Third Sister and Kenobi, and then he talks to her and she turns, and then you move forward into a big showdown. And my question is now, so if we have a big fight with Kenobi and Vader, right? Does Kenobi re-injure Vader and escape, or does Third Sister get involved? Because what would happen between then and when he becomes 9 years from then?
I mean, I don't even know what Darth Vader's canonical injuries are at this point. I think he doesn't have either arm, right? That's what the sort of thing.
Yeah. Showed. I mean, the one arm, that was when he was Anakin.
That was when he was Anakin. That's what Dooku did to him.
Yeah,
and then did he lose his other arm when he was fighting?
I think.
Yes, I guess he did, right? Because he got burnt off,
and he was
like clawing up with the
the robot arm.
With the robot arm. Yeah, I guess cool. And he lost both legs. Yeah, I guess he lost both.
Yeah, he lost both legs.
Obi-Wan cuts
swipes half of his body.
Yeah, so I gotta watch. I guess I'll watch it with suspended.
No, I think I want. Like, I think what this show is doing to me is like, you know what? Go back and watch the prequels. I also think that's the purpose.
And you win because you're gonna do it on Disney Plus. So Disney just won.
Yeah, I think that's the purpose of the show. To be honest, I was saying, what's possibly the purpose of the show? To watch it on Disney Plus, and I think that's it. Go back and watch the prequels and hate them again, or go back and watch the prequels so you can come back and understand what's going on here. Okay.
Yeah, that's definitely the case. I think you have a good idea there. I mean, there's also the option of Third Sister saving Vader from Obi-Wan. Mm-hmm. There's also an option that your theory is like maybe Qui-Gon's ghost saves Obi-Wan, like by talking to Vader, which could cause Vader to freak out. Like I think Qui-Gon is one of the smoking guns of this thing, because I mean they've canonically said that Obi-Wan does talk to Qui-Gon, right? And he's not talking to him earlier, and I think Liam Neeson has made noises about doing voice work for Disney, so he may not show up in person. It may be something close to like what happens to Rey.
Yeah,
he's one of the strong. I actually like that because it's got everybody. It's got your girl in it too.
Yeah, it does. But Anakin was there.
He was. Well, because Anakin's redeemed at the end of
yes, he is.
Return of the Jedi, and he's de-aged. But
oh man, I'm never gonna watch that movie ever again.
Return of the Jedi.
Rise.
Oh, Rise. Yeah. I might maybe. Yeah, I don't know.
No, I think I'll stop.
I've only seen
The
it
Last
once.
Jedi. Yeah, I've only seen it once. The Last Jedi I've actually seen 3 times, and every time I see it, I just cringe a little at that casino, the whole casino thing. But I like it because I watched Rebels. But I'm like, it's not this movie. Take it out this movie, and you just can't. Like, it's already in here. But
yeah, I'll be honest with you. The last time I watched it, I fast forwarded through all of this.
I don't blame you.
I was just like, I can't. I just like I can't. Like, it took me to Escape. I'm like, no. Oh, so much.
It's a little ridiculous.
But anyway, yeah, I hope that this show can stick the landing, because I think it's also written itself into multiple corners. That the more you think about, like, again, and they bring it up like multiple times, that like Leia is an important part of the Imperial like political scene. Her dad is like one of the most influential senators, and they're just like,
she actually says it herself at one point.
Yeah, it's like
do you know who I am?
It's like, because I mean, doesn't this out Bail like as
it does,
like a rebel?
It does. So like a sympathizer, like it's crazy, because now the Inquisitors should be going to get like, oh really? That's like, and it's so listen.
Maybe it's something Andor will pick up on. Who knows, right? Because Mon Mothma's in Andor, so maybe Jimmy Smits is in Andor too. They haven't said anything, but
no. I like your optimism.
I like my optimism too, because I actually like Jimmy Smits as Bail Organa. So.
I do. I really like your optimism, because like you're saving this for me. Like, you're saving the universe, the Star Wars universe for me.
Oh no, that's bad, because
like, again, like outside of the and I've thought about this. I thought about this before we did the show. Like, outside of the Force, like Mandalorian again, which I love, Boba Fett, which people liked. I said people.
Someone like Tamora Morrison's bank account liked.
Yeah, and they watched it, and
they definitely watched it.
I don't know if it's gonna get a second season or whatever. I don't know how it ended. So okay, but people watched it, and people were satisfied by it. So like, and then if we go to the movie side, there's a new Trek. There's a new Star Wars. There's one. I almost said One Republic.
Rogue One.
Wow, One Republic.
It's not a band.
It's a band.
Okay,
it's definitely a band. So yeah, there's Rogue One. So people like Star Wars, right? That it seems to be like people like Star Wars. It's not Skywalker.
Yeah, I mean, the thing is, people like Star Wars despite the best efforts of the following people: George Lucas, Disney / Kathleen Kennedy,
right?
The Star Wars fandom,
right?
Like, all three of these groups have tried actively to make people not like Star Wars,
right?
And for good reasons. In the case like George trying to get his vision done, Disney for money making, and Star Wars fandom for being racist. So these like things have tried to make people hate Star Wars. Right. People still love it. People still eat it up. The only thing bigger than this is Stranger Things, and that's because Stranger Things has existed like for 4 seasons. It was gone for 2 years. Right. Like, and in fact, it could still compete with Stranger Things the day it came out.
Right.
Like, and Stranger Things is way more not way more family friendly, but pretty family friendly. Like the number of like students I have who watched it with their parents, right? Or my colleagues who watched it with their kids who are like 13, 14, right? Mm-hmm. Is huge, right? And so that Obi-Wan kind of is like that, but it's still not quite the zeitgeist. But the fact that it's still doing that with Stranger Things hanging over it is hugely good for Disney.
Yeah. So, it just begs the question, like, should they stop? Because again, that's the next question I wanted to ask you. Is so should I don't think they're going to, but should they put a freeze on the Star Wars, because the Skywalkers for now, right? And should they stop force sensitive stuff for a minute, just for like a couple of years, and let everything kind of simmer down before you bring that back up?
I think the real test for this is not this show. I think it's the one next year, Osaka.
Yeah,
I can't say her name. I just can't.
Ahsoka.
It's just at this Ahsoka. Like if that show works, and that's trading on both Mandalorian, like investment by Mandalorian,
Right.
and investment by Clone Wars / Rebels. If that show is successful, both like on a storytelling level and with fans, I think we're golden, because that's going to be the starting point, I think, for a bunch of new Jedi stories, right? Because that would be how you bring Ezra in.
Right.
You could bring Luke into that if you wanted to, like, because he's contemporaneous with all of that going on, right? Like, if you were going to go back and do, like, if there's a strain where the Jedi is coming from, that's going to be where it is.
Okay, so now hear me out, right? Oh, man, I really want Ahsoka to work, but this is I think what's going to hold her back. You have to have loved that Mandalorian episode. You have to have loved it, right? Because she's in it. 1, 2, you have to know her. So you have to have watched Clone Wars. Now, I'm going to go out on a limb here and say a lot of the Star Wars people that are watching the shows and watching live action didn't really invest any time in Clone Wars. Because if you remember, right, or you probably don't, when Ahsoka first becomes a thing on Clone Wars, she was hated.
Really hated.
They hated her. She's annoying. Why does she have to be with Anakin? But listen, I was very surprised because I loved her and loved Snips from, when she was like a youngling. She grows to become this phenomenon within Star Wars fans, and now she's like top 3 when you go to cons, like Star Wars characters, right? So you have to have loved her from the show, right? To want to sit down and watch 6 episodes of her show. Or I think she still has who has Grogu now, right?
Do you want me to spoil it for you? Like, I can spoil it.
So it doesn't. You know what? No.
All right, I don't want to spoil it for you.
I will watch it before.
But I will say, I will give you this to encourage you. She is in.
Okay, I'm definitely gonna watch it now. I'm definitely gonna watch it now. That's it. Signed, sealed. I'm watching both. I'm going to force myself.
Well, maybe we'll mention it. We'll talk about it a little bit next week if you get.
Okay, yes, I'll definitely watch it before next week's show.
I think you're right. I think what you're talking about is I think Clone Wars and Rebels like were part of a transitionary era in a lot of fandoms, right, where the center of gravity stopped moving from primarily Boomer, Gen X, and older millennial men to being the female voice in fandom to be louder. Right. And some fandoms the center, but not Star Wars fandom's not there yet. Far from there.
No, far from
but definitely, and you see this in the MCU, which is just upsetting. And both of these things have upset the neckbeards, right? And Last Jedi was kind of like the radicalization point of this. But she's really benefited from this. There's just so many male fandom fans, like any teenage girl character, they find annoying, right?
Yes.
And no matter how good, and clearly based on her reception, she's a good female character, right? And with huge evolution, a huge character arc, but still people hate her. And there are still people, but those voices I think are minority.
Okay.
I think if the show, like the rumor is that Hayden Christensen, not a rumor, Hayden Christensen is confirmed to be in her show.
So he's just working right now.
Well, what else is he going to do? So
true.
So if they do flashbacks to the two of them, or she also can be communicating with him as a Force ghost, because he is a Force ghost, right? By the time she's trying to find Ezra, right?
Yeah,
and he's redeemed by Luke.
Yeah.
So she could be communicating with him, right?
You break the internet.
It would break the internet. But if you do things like that kind of establish her like a little bit, you don't have to do a whole backstory episode. But if you get enough, so maybe there's some 19-year-old or 17 or 16-year-old who really love Clone Wars and Rebels and Mandalorian and watch Mandalorian with their parents, right? And they're like, let's watch this show. Something to get these people who like are Star Wars fans but didn't follow Clone Wars, maybe they were too old or whatever, to like understand her connection to Anakin in a way that's like kind of implied. It's sort of implied in The Mandalorian and Boba Fett. Like if you know who she is, you're gonna really be like, oh my god, yes. But if you don't, you're kind of like, who is this? Right. Why is Rosario Dawson here? Right. Like with the things.
So I mean, and I think the casting isn't bad too. Rosario Dawson is
she's solid.
Solid, yeah. So I and people loved her in the Marvel shows on Netflix. So why not?
I think she's got to really show more range. Like, right. Mandalorian hasn't asked much of her, right?
No, it was like 5 minutes, 20 minutes tops. But yeah, so I listen. Again, you also had to watch the last season the last season of Clone Wars, where Ahsoka becomes a major part of the, like the rebel force, and you get to see her like kind of just lose her shit when Anakin is revealed as Vader, like all that when she senses that. So if you, like as you said, if you can connect those things together, and this is where I think Filoni might thrive, right? Because that's his character, that's his baby. I think he's going to want a lot more say so on, because I don't know who's the showrunner, because I know he's going to be EP. He's going to be he's EP for a lot of the live action stuff, right?
Him and Favreau split it.
So they're both they're going to be EP for this show, right?
I imagine maybe Favreau will not be involved in her show.
Yeah, I think this is the one where he has to be like hands off. He has to talk to whoever he needs to talk to and be like, this is my baby. Hands off, like Bendis. If they made a live action Miles movie, I think Bendis needs to come in and be like, listen.
Bendis works for the bad guys now, so he's like, Marvel ain't bringing him back, and his buddy Joey Q is out the door now. So I think Bendis isn't coming anywhere near the Marvel goods anymore.
No, he's not, and it's kind of sad because I would love to see what he would do with Miles and as an executive producer. But yeah, I think Filoni has to be like, look, hands off, or at least listen to what I have to say. You are not going to mess my baby up, and I think that's the one way that I can ensure that it does really well. But Kenobi episode 4, we just talked about it, and we talked about everything else to fill the time.
Well, no, I think we gave a good.
No, we did. We gave a good review of the show. We can't put a finger on where the show is going, and I think that the cast shows that. It's like, yeah. I really hope. I'm scared that they're not gonna land this well, but I have a sneaky feeling. Maybe it's just your optimism is rubbed up for me, and I think they might. Your optimism for Star Wars in general. So
I don't know if I'm optimistic about this show.
No, you're not. But I'm taking some of that and applying it here. No, just a little piece of me saying that Ewan McGregor is not going to let them land the show. Like he's going to pilot it, and land the show some way that will make everyone happy. I think.
Yeah, me too. I think going back to the prequels, Ewan McGregor is always trying. Like always trying. And hopefully that will come through here.
Right.
Always.
So we'll see. Hopefully we get 2 saber fights that we will love and we'll talk about, or not, and we will be like, I don't know if we're gonna be like I told you so, but thank you very much for
this week is gonna suck for me. It's the last full week of school, so I would really love the middle of the week to be broken up by like a really good episode of Kenobi. Unlike coming home from a long day of work and being like, "What did I just watch?" we'll talk about like we're gonna do an episode of about Ms. Marvel's today,
right.
So, which is a whole different positive experience. But I was like, why did I rush home to watch this?
But anyways, thank you very much, Roy. We'll see you next week for episode 5 of Kenobi. Till then, hope you have a good week. Don't forget to like, subscribe, and we'll catch you on the next one.